Use the power of discovering new habits to create success in all areas of life. Body, fitness and nutrition, being, spirituality, passion and purpose, balance, marriage, kids and relationships, business, marketing, sales, leadership and systems. Transform your life by learning how habits work. And now your host, husband, father, entrepreneur, trainer, coach, and warrior, Jesse Ewell.
Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell. Today, we're going to be talking about the habit of results. I have a special guest, Ben Warfiled. Ben is a guy that I have coached for 4 to 5 years between. He used to work out at a training facility I had in Gig Harbor, Washington, which is how I first met him. And then now he is in Habit-Based Lifestyle, also in our marriage boot camp program, him and his wife. And hey, thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jesse.
So we've been working together through fitness. It's kind of how we started, and then progressively into, self-development programs. You were one of the first people who went through my program, Project Alpha. I think it was actually 3 years ago this month.
Really?
Yeah. Or possibly 4 years ago this month.
I think it was 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years ago this month. You went through, that's 2015. Yeah, that's a couple of years ago. But you went through that program, and I wanted to have you on, number one, because you're down here in Dana Point, California. But number two is just to watch the progression of growth that you've had just over the last 4.5, 5 years since I've known you, but also just to kind of see, where you're at today. So let's talk about, what's changed in your life just in these last, 4.5 years, 5 years since I've known you. And then we'll get to kind of where you're at today.
All right.
So let's talk about body, man. Like, when I first met you, you were a guy who had just, lost a little bit of weight, but you were kind of stuck and you were looking to kind of go to that next level place.
Yeah, so I've been overweight for a while, and I did like running to kind of get where I was going. Weight loss wise, lost about, 25 pounds or so, and just kind of hit stagnation, like you said. Look for something different, walk past your gym, and next thing you know, we're training.
Yeah. So you start out there, all of a sudden, a year later, you're now in this program, Project Alpha, and you're like, dude, what the hell did you get me into? And so, you progress from that. You went to Warrior Week, not once, but twice, right?
3 times.
Warrior Week 3 times?
Yeah, 3 times.
And then you came back through. We started, we coached for, a while back then. And then back in January, we started coaching again. What's been kind of the shift for you just in the last 9 months since we've been coaching again at the level that we are now?
I think the shift was to put me in a place where kind of you see where things are going in my head. Like, you kind of keep me between the rails a lot of times. As things have progressed, they've gone, like, we can back it up a little bit and talk about some growth, I guess, would make a little more sense, I guess, than starting kind of where we're at right now.
Right.
If I back it up, basically my life has gone like 400% increase in 4 years. And so the level that we're at now is kind of dealing with a business and family and relationship that I'm in, and how all that has gone, like, kind of on this trajectory upward together. And so the chaos that's kind of been lately, like, well, since January, it's just been, business has been really growing, and it had gone through a dip which business goes up and down, tide goes up and goes down.
Right.
And kind of January, I think it was kind of in a little bit of a down, and put together a game plan and just kind of stepped week by week and executed on top of one move on top of another. And next thing you know, it looks like we're going to double up again in 2020. Like we've really put together a lot in the past 8-9 months.
And when you say double up, you're saying double up in revenue.
Double up in revenue, yeah.
Okay. So let's back up. You know, one of the things that I looked at in January was you were kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've watched happen in the last 9 months is you getting grounded and, you know, just being stable in work. And what I mean by stable is not being in this reactive mode of, you know, kind of
the fireman.
Yeah, when we started working together, it was like, dude, like you're spending so much of your day putting out fires. Like, why aren't you working on building your business and, you know, focusing on what you're best at, which is going out and increasing sales, you know, bidding jobs and those
Mm-hmm.
things. You were, you know, at that time you were busy babysitting one particular person. We won't say their name, but you were babysitting this guy. And, you know, for about 2-3 months, I'm like, dude, like, how long are you going to keep this guy around? Because I could tell he was taking up a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. And, you know, we got to a point where it's like, hey, you can choose to keep, you know, putting out fires with this guy, or you can put all that energy into sales. You can put all that energy into, you know, going out and getting new customers, doing bids. And where I really started to see the shift was when you made that move. It was like within 2 or 3 weeks, I think you hit a couple $250,000 contracts,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like boom, boom, boom.
It just
and
started falling like dominoes.
And so, you know, really what I've seen in the last, you know, 4 or 5 months is, you know, where we said, hey, that was like the first domino that started everything, but you've just continued to do that. And I think you've hit, you know, 4 or 5, you know, $250,000 contracts, you know, just in the last 5 months, correct?
Yeah. Well over $1 million.
Yeah. And so, you know, I want to acknowledge you for that because, you know, that's a huge thing. But also, what else I've watched you do is step out of the day-to-day chaos and step back into the role as a producer in your business to where, you know, a good 75-80% of your time is spent on the area of, you know, where you're best at, which is you're being a producer, someone who goes out, makes sales, someone who is building a team around him to support him, which is something, you know, you've never really had before.
Well, yeah, I think I never was super clear on what my true X factor was, or nor did I allow myself to like live in that. And that's where I think that the biggest shift has come, is to see like, hey, I'm phenomenal at people.
Right.
And meeting people and building relationships and fulfilling on what we put forth in contracts and managing that aspect of the business. And now that I have some support, put some people in place to keep me kind of on track in certain areas and then pick up things that don't really work well for my personality type.
Right.
I've been able to really rise and really just settle into that. And it's kind of different when you step from a lot of chaos to where it's more just like an open sea, open horizon, like where I can go and I can say, okay, there's nothing really feel like it's holding me back now.
Yeah, and I kind of compare it to, you know, everybody tells you business is supposed to be hard, you're supposed to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
But what's crazy is when you start getting in alignment with where your skill set matches up in your business, it's no longer hard. It no longer feels like you're suffering. It no longer feels like a lot of those things. And so, you know, to me, that's all bullshit, that business doesn't have to be hard. We make it hard because we actually think, hey, I need to control every aspect of my business, and I'm the only one that can do this the way that I do it. And so I'm actually not going to give up my control. I'm just going to put out fires all day long. And so you never really get the opportunity to step into your unique ability or unique strength. And what I'm watching you do is pushing that chaos aside and saying, hey, I have, this person in place to handle this. I have this person in place to handle this. Now I'm going to go produce and just focus on what I do best.
That absolutely. And it feels nice to wake up in the morning and feel like that I have like this mechanism around me now that I've built and created.
Right.
And actually feel like, okay, now you only have so much bandwidth.
Right.
And so when you get caught, like a fire takes 10 times more bandwidth than a production.
Right.
So when you go into production mode, you can create 10 times faster than when you're putting out fires. So I was in fire mode for literally years in business.
Right. And, we get into fire mode because we don't have systems, we don't delegate, and we want to be the everything guy. Like we want to be the janitor, we want to be the the laborer, we want to be the salesperson, we want to be the hod carrier, we want to be the secretary.
I started telling myself, like, I'm not the fucking truck driver.
Right.
Like I'm not a truck driver. And because I'm like sitting out there strapping down loads on my truck, I'm like, I'm doing something that it's the same amount of time in an 8-hour day. I could be in someone's office or taking somebody out to lunch or on a job site, making some connections, making some stuff happen, or I could be tying down loads on a truck.
Right. Or you could be, talking to an employee about, what they're not doing on the job, which is pulling you away. And this is a huge thing for entrepreneurs, especially guys that I coach. I watch guys all the time spend a huge amount of their day putting out fires, putting out chaos. And I'll say, listen, man, when are you going to give up the $15 an hour job to go and really find out what you make per hour? And I think we've been working on this the last few months is like, listen, how much money are you making an hour? And, say it's around $200. And so we sat and I said, okay, that means you're going to have to give up every job under that. And you're going to have to find somebody else to do that job for you. And I've watched you do this over the last few months. And, we're even getting your wife involved in the same thing. And she's starting to be like, hey, I'm on board with this because this is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah. So that's what's really changed in your business. And, you're looking at a 100% increase. Is that what you said in your business?
I think so. I think if not, it's going to be at least like 80 in 2020.
Okay. Yeah. So 80% increase from last year.
Mm-hmm. We're at 40 this year.
40%.
So it'll double in 2 years.
Yeah. So 40% increase in 2019. And you're looking at doing the same thing. And you're already set up almost for your first 4 months of next year, just based off what you've already done this year.
Yes.
So which is pretty cool. And your business has been around how long?
12 years.
So, you're talking about a 12-year business. Most people, don't even make it 12 years, number one, let alone have a 40% increase on their 12th year from the year before. So just that alone has been a huge, huge thing. But let's talk a little bit about marriage and, what's changed for you inside of your marriage. What's changed for you guys inside of this marriage boot camp since going to this? Because a lot of people out there, I think they're okay with working on themselves. They're okay with maybe their wife working on themselves, but saying, hey, I want to work on my marriage is almost like saying you have a problem. But the way that we look at it is like, no, yes, we all have problems in marriage, but this is more about taking our marriage to the next level.
The problem is that you don't want to work on your marriage.
Yeah.
That's the issue. There's always something to do, and there's always ways to be better. And I think the thing that we've taken from that, for me personally, is just higher level of honest communication, not beating around the bush about stuff. And then when, people act like, oh, you shouldn't go to bed angry, you shouldn't have fights in your marriage and all that. And that's all bullshit. That you're going to argue and you're going to have situations that come up and cause conflict, and that's a good thing. And it's better to have those things happen quickly and be like quick and out,
right, than
have them like burn and smolder and come back to fire and then put them back out and then back up again because you haven't really truly dealt with it. And it's not an easy thing, and it's not sometimes it's not fun,
right,
but it's especially with my wife being in business with us on the team in the office, not at home raising kids. That's part of the business too. For the past decade, the past year, she's been in the office, and to have her there, it's caused a whole different expansion and a whole different series of challenges to work through, and also worth working through that, a lot of growth. And I think it's not any coincidence that we've had a huge increase this year with having her on board, even though when she came into the business, she really didn't know much about anything, how it operated, or even what I really did, other than I'd come home and, complain about my day for the past decade.
Right. And I think a lot of, couples is like when your wife's in your business, there's one of two things happen. Either it's a complete shit show.
Mm-hmm.
And usually all that is because, both people are too close together and working on too similar of stuff. But I believe in marriage, if you learn to work and really maximize each other's strengths in business, you can really accelerate your results, which is, what you guys are doing. There's no secret why you're increasing your revenue by 40%. Number one, you have your number one cheerleader who's next to you, 5 days a week, and you guys are both going in the same direction. And so I think that's a huge part of it. But also, where you talk about, people are afraid to have these, collisions, these hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, a lot of times it's not that we don't argue, man. It's like the argument's a lot more heated and a lot quicker, but it also goes out a lot faster. Where if you let them smolder, we know people that come through here that, man, they've had the same issue for the last 18 years or the last 10 years and the last 5 years. And the problem with that is in marriage, if you're not creating new problems and you're staying stuck on the old problems, that has a major impact on your marriage. And so, what I'm seeing you with is you are creating new problems in your marriage. And that's a good thing because you're solving things at a higher level. But when we have the same problem over and over and we keep trying to solve them at the same level, we stay stuck in the problems, and that's where the real issues come into marriage. And so, that's what I'm seeing you guys work through is, hey, we're creating these new problems, but the new problems mean it's a good problem to have because we're solving a lot of the old problems. And one of those is money. And I want to,
it was a huge conversation around money in the beginning.
Yeah, you guys
huge.
A couple months ago, it was like you brought up money and it was like, oh shit, let's not bring that up. But you guys were both blocked, we could just say blocked from a financial aspect, and not even so much in your bank account, but just emotionally stuck and mentally stuck in these stories around each other, to where you didn't even talk. In some of the things that's really became unblocked is, and what's happened in the last, just couple months, I've watched some major shifts inside of your guys' world. Can you kind of talk about those a little bit?
Oh yeah. The financial blocks we had were those were from deep down. You bring up money and it's oh my God, both of us, don't talk about that, even though we're over here making 7-figure income.
Right.
But scared to even talk about how to pay to get basic stuff in the house. How much are we going to spend on food this week? I don't know. What do we normally spend? I don't know. Then bank account up, down, all around, and just not managing it, I think. And even scared to even have a conversation on what managing it would look like. And then to go from that for literally 14 years, we've been married, 16 years together, to in the past 3 months having a weekly budget meeting, locking down cash, setting a plan for future and where we want to go, and actually having things fall in line to build out foundation of the things that we've always wanted to have and wanted to provide for our family, to have it come together really quickly once we opened up that communication and went through those battles.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I think it's been 3 months since you guys went through marriage boot camp. So kind of the trajectory of it started as it went from not wanting to talk about money at all to creating kind of a legacy account, for the future. not only that, but I think you guys got, you know, a large lump sum of money for, you know, an insurance claim that you'd been waiting for quite a while.
Yeah, we've been burglarized and had all the jewelry stolen out of our house, amongst other things, and it took about 10 months to get it all kind of closed up, and that all kind of
happened. Yeah, that happened, and then you got, I think, a big contract for, you know, $250,000 or something, and then you just had somebody recently offer you guys a pretty big chunk of change for your piece of property that your business is on, to where you're gonna financially come out, you know, earning 100% of what you've put into it, over 100% of what you put into it. But I believe these things are because you guys cleared out financial blocks.
I absolutely believe that too.
In your life, and it's, you know, it's put you on a different trajectory, and it's really cool to see. But I also, you know, want you to realize that this is because you chose and your wife chose to work on these things together. And by you doing that, you know, I always say is like, listen, if you work on yourself, you know, maybe you can get 20 times or 10 times the results. But if you work with each other on each other, now you're talking about 20 times the results at 20 times the speed. And what's cool is to watch you guys, you know, see that in your relationship, not only, you know, in how you guys show up for each other, but also just to see the financial change and significance that it's having in your marriage.
Yeah, it goes really, it's bank account from bust to like bankroll.
Right.
Like it's kind of almost hard to even talk about because it's changed so dramatically in the past 6 months.
Yeah. And dude, you may be on the verge of like making a financial decision that could set you up on a trajectory to literally make millions, and to be able to invest that to make millions in the future. So that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's, you know, that's another thing is that I'm not a really good celebrator on those moments, and just I'm kind of letting it kind of come into me right now.
Yeah, that's why I'm sitting here talking to you about this.
And I'm like going, wow, like it's
well, here's the reality is, you know, we're guys, so, you know, it's like, okay, well, on to the next thing. And, you know, whether it's losing 25 pounds, you know, and celebrating that, but not only that, celebrating, you know, the journey you've been on to get there. It's like, dude, think about the journey you've been on in your business for 12 years. You've literally like grinded. And I would say for the most part, up until the last 6 months, you know, it's been a grind. It's been very hard. But now you're starting to get into this alignment and this flow in life and in your business to where things are just naturally coming at you. And it's hard to explain, but it's not. But it feels, you know, normal. It feels like, okay, like I'm worthy of this now, which 6 months ago may have not been the case.
Yeah, it's like I kind of had this thought the other morning because like we always wake up like, oh, what do I have to do today? And I think for the first time in my life, what do I want to do today? Like, what's important to me right now?
Right.
Where do I want to go right now? And that's kind of an odd feeling, really. Like it's foreign from feeling that way for so long of waking up almost like that. I call it the being hunted.
Right. In survival.
Yeah. And so like the waking up being hunted feeling versus the going out and being the hunter is a totally different game.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of entrepreneurs wake up like someone's chasing them.
That's exactly what it is.
And it's usually, you know, it's usually like in another animal that's even meaner and bigger that's after you. And it's kind of like you're dodging that animal and you're trying to do your business. And not only that, you're trying to be a father, husband, you know, and leader in your home. And to be able to do all that, it's like juggling, you know, it's like juggling ninja stars. Where
that's a good
you know, you have about a 1% chance of actually catching the sides and not cutting yourself. Other than that, you're going to cut the shit out of your hands and everything else. So, yeah. Is there, let me ask you this. Like, you've worked with me for 4.5, 5 years. What's been the biggest shift or maybe biggest thing that I've taught you in that time, or maybe the top 2 or 3 things?
The first word that comes to mind is space. And that's something that you've helped me learn to create for myself, like where I can stop and I can see like there needs to be a break right now in what's going on and to take a step back. And so space is a big word that comes to mind for me right now.
Okay.
Another one that's as of late is alignment, and feeling that I'm on the path where I'm supposed to be,
Right.
and not astray of that. No matter where that path is going, I'm there, and it's one foot in front of the other, and it's the right path, no matter where it takes me.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's two big things, I think.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people that, you know, listen to me and you know, think they know what I do in coaching, they probably think a lot of is, well, this guy's kind of a meathead and he's probably just going to talk about fitness and nutrition the whole time. And most of the time we don't really talk about that. We may
Not
talk
at all,
about
really.
your,
a little bit here and there. Yeah, but not. No.
yeah, we might talk about energy, you know, just from what you're eating, what you're doing. But, you know, outside of that, I would say, you know, we work a lot with your internal energy, getting you in alignment with what you want and having habits that support that. Not only that, but also creating space when you know, feel like, man, like my creativity's shutting down. You know, I feel like just my head's like, I can't think straight and all these things. And so, you know, I want to put that out there because I think a lot of guys are like, oh, you know, he comes from the fitness industry. You're probably just going to talk a lot about fitness. And that's not really what we do. We used to do that.
When we were like training together back in the day, like, yeah, that was the conversation for that hour when we trained. But
sometimes it wasn't even that,
yeah,
really.
No, but the space is a big one. Alignment, grounding too. That's kind of along the lines of alignment. And I think more what I've opened up to over the past like couple years is just how important my internal energy is and how much I need to cultivate that inside myself and how important that is.
Yeah.
Because that leads to like everything, you know, like if my energy's off and I'm not feeling aligned, I don't have the space I need, I'm not grounded, I'm not going to make great decisions.
Right.
I'm going to make hasty ones. I'm going to jump into shit I shouldn't jump into, or, you know, react. That's kind of the difference between, you know, reaction and response. And when you're in the space world, you can respond.
You're reacting to life instead of actually creating the life that you want. And, you know, this is a huge thing for entrepreneurs. Anybody is like, we can get into the habit of just reacting to every little thing going on in life, that we never actually step back and are like, hey, I'm actually like now creating the life I want instead of reacting to the life that I don't want.
And it's like, I can feel the life that I'm in now. It feels just so right.
Right.
Like it feels like I always knew, I guess, what life would look like, where I would go, you know, and like the direction, the trajectory I was on, and like where I was trying to go. But I didn't know how it would feel. Now I'm feeling that, and it feels very whole.
Or like effortless.
Yeah, effortless. Yeah,
right.
Just like letting things work and like work themselves out instead of trying to just force everything.
Yeah, and we get in the habit of forcing things because we want them to happen exactly the way we think they should happen, and that's not always the case. So, dude, give me one thing that's really, I know you talked about communication in your marriage, but what's been one thing that's really changed for you guys in your marriage the last, 3 months since going through marriage boot camp, to where like you look today and you're like, man, like things have completely radically changed?
Well, the communication spans across. Like, you mean like a one direct thing?
Yeah.
There's not any fear.
Okay.
I don't feel fear in my relationship now. And I mean, fear, like it was money at first, but that's just a sign of something else, right? It was like, I'm scared to talk about some shit in my own house with my own wife. Like, why is that? I don't know. That feeling, that sensation, that's completely gone. Like, stuff comes up and we're just like, let's just do this. And then it just feels like a flow state, like we are creating together, and it's not based of fear. It's based of like what we want.
Sure.
And where we want to go. And that's like, we're like co-parenting with the kids. Like she's dropping them off here, I'm grabbing them. We're like running around. We're doing so much stuff. Business is going crazy over here. We're both working out and feeling good about our bodies, and just it feels very whole.
Right. Yeah, I think the cool thing is when you get to that place, you start working together to support each other. And believe it or not, like, if you're a guy out there listening to this, you're like, dude, you're afraid to talk to your wife. But here's the reality. 99.9% of guys are afraid to talk to their wives. And it's the story you have about your wife. It's not even reality, but it's the story we build up. Maybe you won't get laid. There's a lot of things.
She's going to freak out on this, or like,
yeah.
And like, so well, this isn't normal for me to think this way or do this or what have you.
Right. And so we just create scenarios and we create stories that keep us stuck in the same story and the same problem. So awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you being on here. I'm excited to see where you guys go from here. Not only that, but I want you to know how proud of you I am as your coach the last 4.5, 5 years, just to watch the growth that you've had and just to look back at where we were when we first met and then kind of where we are today.
It's kind of a trip.
Yeah.
Remember that song we used to listen to in the gym, Started from the Bottom, Now We're Here?
Yeah.
That shit comes on, and I'm like, that's like totally keys me in. Like, okay, man, like where we keep going. It's like one layer at a time, one brick at a time, just like we build walls, nonstop growth. It's been really wild. It's been wild to see where you're going, what you're doing now, how many people you're helping and showing how to create like you showed me, and to see and live in the results I'm living in now. Like my kids, my wife, we're all feeling that gift that you got and that you've shared.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you. So, well, we got tomorrow to work on all this shit. So
that's gonna be a good weekend.
We're gonna be going to the next level this weekend. We're getting ready to start marriage boot camp. Tomorrow we have our class number 1 coming back. They're gonna graduate. Then the next 2 days there's gonna be our class number 2, and it's gonna be fun. So it's gonna be awesome to see the results of where everybody's back from over the last 90 days. So thanks again, man, for being on here. And if you guys are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook, where I'll be dropping daily habits to help you live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies, or maybe you want to be part of the Habit-Based Lifestyle community, reach out to me. Feel free if you have questions, comments, or concerns. Jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.